Hey there! In a previous video, I talked about the Supernote, and I focused on 3 of the attributes that I think really set it apart and are probably the most important in terms of why I use that as a daily driver. It's really my argument for the Supernote. But as I mentioned in that video, in addition to a lot of those features I covered then, a great thing about the Supernote is how it gets so many little details right. And so in this video, I'm going to go over some of what those details are, and hopefully between the 2 videos really paint a picture about what the Supernote is and why it's so special in my mind. So with that, let's go ahead and get right in on it. So we've gone over the primary reasons why I really love working with the Supernote, but the reality is that there are so many little things this device does really well. It's hard to really appreciate what the value of using this is without starting to go into some of the more smaller things that are so important. And we'll start with the stylus. The stylus has what I think is a nice classical design, and I'm not sure this will be picked up, but you can customize it. So I wrote in here Mr. Backup. It's probably not coming across the camera very well, but I was able to customize the text there. It has the ceramic tips, which never need replacing. It also has spring action, so if I press on it, it yields a little bit, which is, I don't generally do that because I don't put that type of pressure, but it definitely adds to the tactile experience for those that do put a lot of pressure on their stylus. I think folks may agree or disagree on whether they like this style or not. I think that's beside the point. We're in a world where most styluses or styli are pretty plain. They're pretty utilitarian. They're pretty basic. And for Supernote to have, a little bit of a different take, a little bit of class, there's different color choices, and again, customization in terms of text on the clip. It's a nice feature. It's a small thing, but the small things add up with the Supernote. Let me show you another small thing. So we've got the Lasso Tool selected. I think that the graphics involved with the Lasso Tool are the best in the business. Let's watch that in action. I'm going to go ahead and lasso this whole text thing here and just watch how smooth it is as I move it from below to above the star. Very smooth. I can be very precise in where I fit it on the line. A little bit of ghosting, but easily removed by swiping up. It seems like nothing, but I can tell you that in work, and I don't use the Lasso Tool a lot, but I use it a little bit, I really appreciate how smooth it is. I mean, it just stands out as I'm using the device. Another thing, and this is a feature I don't use, but I think it's a huge feature for a lot of Supernote users, is the header feature. And the header feature basically is a way where you can create kind of links within a workbook. So we've already got this text lassoed. If I can click on the header, I can click on this icon. See, and it makes the text look like that. And if I don't like that, I can just highlight it and say, no, give me a lighter color, like so. And I definitely don't like that. Let's try that again. Let's go for. There you go. I can live with that. Now, the value isn't just that they're highlighting the text. The value is I've now created this hyperlink. So let me go ahead and move on to this blank page. I'm still in the same workbook. I'm going to click this icon right up here, like so. And now, under this Headings tab, I have what I've highlighted selected. And of course, I can have multiple things selected as for each heading that I create. So if I click on this, it's returning me back to this page. If I don't like this header anymore, I can highlight it. I can get rid of it. Simple as that. So easy to create and remove headers or to format them in a style that you want. And the keywords are the same basic principle. And you'll also notice I have my star here. If I click on this icon, I can go to this stars tab. It will show the pages where stars appear. Remember earlier when we talked about stars, we did a search and it searched across notebooks. This is how you would search for stars if you were only trying to do it within a notebook. And of course, this is also a hyperlink. So if I go to this blank page, I click on this icon and I go boom like this, and there you go. So let's talk a little bit about battery life. Now, I don't have any measurements of this device. I can just tell you from my personal experience what battery life is like. And so here's my routine. So essentially, I come home from work Friday night, plug my Supernote into the computer. I always charge all my devices via the computer's USB port. In theory, it should help to preserve battery life. I don't know if that works or not, but the process worked for me because I plug it in, it charges overnight. The next morning I unplug it, it's fully charged. Super convenient. And then I power it down. And then I'll power it back on when I show up to work on Monday. So throughout the course of the week, based on my usage patterns, I can easily make it through the week without having to do any type of charging. In fact, I could probably go 2 weeks quite easily. But I stick to a 1 week cadence because it's just easy to get into that type of a routine. It's easy to remember, okay, this is when I charge the device. And so the device, I never think about the battery life or not having enough charge. I do have a USB-C cable in my bag just in the off chance there's an issue. But honestly, that's pretty much my procedure. So the battery life is solid. It's perfectly acceptable for me. Again, I could go to 2 weeks without recharging, but I prefer to do it more frequently because it just helps me to have that type of a routine. So, it could, if the battery life was even better, I don't think I would necessarily take advantage of it unless it was dramatically better, like where you charged it once a month type of a deal. And that would be cool. But, it's perfectly good the way it is, and that's how I use it. So battery life is also a plus of the device. Another thing that's a big plus, and this is a feature I don't use, but I really like, is the way that you can display onto a computer. And basically a lot of companies like Books and Big Me use Miracast, where you have to have a receiver that can take in the signal like a Chromecast or what have you. And sometimes you'll have access to that receiver and sometimes you won't. The way the Books one works is that basically as long as you're on the same Wi-Fi network as the Books device plus the device you're projecting on, and the device you're projecting on has a web browser, then you can display it. And we'll actually just kind of show that in action. So if you look at the top, if we swipe down, you've got to be on Wi-Fi, which we are, and then you click on this little guy right here. And it has screen mirroring. So now let's go over to the computer and see what it looks like on that side. All right, so now I'm on my computer on the same Wi-Fi network as my Supernote, and I'm in my browser. And I'm going to go ahead, I've actually selected this as a favorite, so I'm going to go ahead and select my favorites. And actually, let me do this. And then I've got this little tag that says SN or Supernote, and you can see the address there. And I'll just click on that, and boom, there's my device. Now, as I write, it helps for me to have the pen on. As I write, you can see it. Pretty cool. And actually, since we're here, I glossed over the keyword functionality. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. And so we'll do two things simultaneously. We'll be displaying how this screen sharing works, and we'll look at how the keywords works. I'm going to go ahead and write keystone like so. And let's go ahead and use the Lasso Tool. By the way, you'll notice that as my stylus gets close to the screen, there is a pointer right there. That's also a nice feature, but it doesn't work when you have the lasso on. So let me click that on. I'll select the keystone. And now let me click on the little K right there. And it's actually going to recognize the handwriting. And look at that. It recognized it exactly, even in cursive, although it was neatly written. But it's still impressive nonetheless. I'm going to go ahead and add this as a keyword. And you'll notice it says keystone, P5. And this basically says that that keyword appears on page 5 of this notebook. So let's go ahead and get out. And if I go to this icon here that we've been looking at previously with headers and the star marking. Now, if we click on keywords, it appears, and much like the other tabs, if I click on Keystone, it will take me directly to the page in which it appears. So, pretty cool. And of course, again, I can remove it by simply deleting the item. Oops, I don't want to delete the whole thing. Let's like so. And that's how that works. So these two videos do not cover all the functionality of the Supernote, and it really wasn't intended to. There's a lot more that you can do in the Supernote. There's a lot more detail in the UI and on and on. But hopefully there's a picture that's been painted, and the picture is how many things a Supernote gets right, how many features this device has, and why it's so useful, particularly at work, but also in other situations and other use cases as well. So it really does stand as the device I use the most, and it's been that way for 1.5 years. And I've actually had a lot of devices in that time. So none of them have even caused a sense in my mind that they could replace the Supernote. That's how big of a deal this device is to me, and how important I think this device is in the industry. Anyway, I hope this helps, and I hope everything came through. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I reply to almost everything. So I'll certainly reply if you have any questions or any thoughts that you might have. So with that, we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.